I'll bet you can't guess what we're going to talk about. Ruth. You didn't see that coming, did you? I know. I'm tricky. Anyway, on Pastor Isaiah mentioned it being cold, and he said it was good. I've mostly heard people say it's awful. Because cold is terrible. I know some of you are in here and you say, no, I really like the cold. You're just going to have to accept that you're wrong. My response is you haven't been cold enough, long enough. I'm just saying, all right? And I have the microphone, so that's the way it works. Anyway, my name is Greg. I'm one of the pastors here. It is an honor to get a chance to talk to you, to speak with you about the book of Ruth. We're beginning a 4-week series. It is really convenient because Ruth has how many chapters? 4, exactly. So 4 weeks, 4 chapters. We're going to do 1 chapter a week. You see how that works? Right. It's awesome. Anyway, excuse me. Hopefully not starting a cold, but who knows? It's cold out. It is. Anyway, Ruth, guys, is one of my favorite books. It's one of my top 3 books of the Bible. Sorry. I like it. The Bible would be one of the other, anyway, you got me. Just trying to keep you with me. So anyway, but it's one of my top 3 Bible books. My first one is Ecclesiastes. It warms your heart. It doesn't, but it's true. When I first read it, I was like, yeah, it's like telling the truth, and I loved it, and still do. My second favorite is Ruth, and my third is Job. And again, it just is so real. It just, I don't know, something about Job it's so deep. It's just so great. But anyway, Ruth is number 2. I absolutely love this book. It's among the reasons why is because it's 4 chapters. It's easy to read and easy to understand. It's definitely written for adults, but it has that almost child book kind of simplicity, right? It's here are the characters, here's the problem, here's how it works out, and it works out. It's just great. So it's really, the way I'll sum it up is it's a story of people being good to each other when they didn't have to be. Just love it. Absolutely love it. Then also, another reason why I like it, if you like diving deeper, if you're like, well, I'm not all shallow, I don't need just 4 chapters, give me it all. Well, you can dive deep in Ruth. You can dive deep in Ruth, and it just makes the story better. It's so great. There's a bunch of details. We're going to hit on just a few of them. We're going to scratch the surface that make the story even better as you learn them. The next reason is Ruth herself as a person is just phenomenal. She's great. She's absolutely one of my heroes. So she's worth looking up to. She's worth having as a hero and learning from. And then next week, Pastor Jason's going to talk to us about Boaz, and he's equally good. It's just the book's about her. So it's just incredible. And then finally, the story of Ruth then leads to David. King David is a big deal. He's the best king in all of Israel, that in all the kings they had. And he wasn't perfect, but a great thing, we see Ruth as being the foundation. Where great people come from, they usually come from great people. Okay? And so Ruth is so significant that she's actually even mentioned in the family tree of Jesus in the book of Matthew. So we're going to talk about her because it's awesome. So what I want to do today is tell you the story. I want to begin the story. I want you to, if I am successful, then you will feel some of this story. You'll understand why it's important, why I'm taking the time to almost just walk you through a story that you could read, a chapter you could read in probably 5-10 minutes, probably 5, because it builds the foundation for the rest of this story. And as you'll see over time, it then becomes a type, a way of referencing even our own salvation, and a way to think about it. So, characters. In a story, you have characters, right? Yes. Pastor Jason's with me. You have characters, and there are three main characters that over the next 4 weeks we're going to talk about. And it begins with Naomi and Ruth, and we're going to talk about those today. Like I said, next week, Pastor Jason's going to introduce Boaz, and there's other people that kind of come in, especially in this chapter 1, but they're incidental. They literally die off. So we have these three. So it's not complicated. We've got three people to think about, and they're all worth thinking about. So let's jump in. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Sounds like a good place to start. This is short enough. I'm not going to do it, but this chapter is short enough that I could read it to you, the whole chapter. And you'd still be like, oh, that was good. Because my voice is soothing. Anyway. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. In the days when the judges ruled Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah left his home and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons with him. See, that's the setup. Nice and easy. So, what I want to do is unpack a few things. I'm not going to go verse by verse, but let's set it up so that we can understand where this book is coming from. What's going on? The first one, in that first little phrase, in the days when the judges ruled Israel. Judges. What that means is this book, if you're going through your table of contents in your Bible, the book of Ruth is right after the book of Judges, which is a convenient place because it's happening in the book at the same time that the happenings of the book of Judges are going on. Okay? Characters in the book of Judges you may have heard of might be Gideon. You might have heard of Samson, right? Past that, it's a nightmare. Judges is a mess. In my notes I wrote, to say Judges is a hot mess is being too kind. Judges is just absolutely a train wreck. And so why is it in the Bible? To point out that when people go their own way, we become train wrecks. To then have an entire culture, each person going its own way, each person being a train wreck, I don't even know what that is. It's Israel during the book of Judges. If you're looking for something just to go, wow, I didn't know that was in the Bible, go to the final chapters of Judges. If you are shocked by the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and that bothered you, do not read the last few chapters of Judges. Because the point is that's how bad Israel has gotten. Absolutely terrible. So I mentioned Gideon and Samson. They're interesting. They had cool ways of looking at things, and they're fun to kind of, have little short stories, but you get into their real stories, and they're extraordinarily flawed. I'm not trying to ruin your stuff. I'm just telling you, that's what's in the book of Judges, okay? And this is where Ruth is set. A partial list. I left out one of the worst ones because I don't want to say it. But a partial list of sins from the book of Judges. Idolatry, murder, rape, conspiracy, prostitution, infidelity, and kidnapping. And the book ends, like the last phrase in the entire book of Judges is, all the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. Do you feel good yet? It's worth reading. It's worth learning because you learn things. You gain, this is, why is it in there? It's telling us that God has called us to follow Him. But when we deny that and we go our own way and we only do what seems right to us, we can lose our way, and we can lose our way remarkably. So there's the book of Judges. So in the days when the judges ruled, this is where it's set. This is what's going on. And we have this unique story in the middle of a hot mess. Okay? Excuse me. The next part is it says there was a severe famine that came upon the land, so the man from Bethlehem left it. So now, severe famine in Bethlehem. The word Bethlehem, the name, I'm sure you've heard of it, Christmas, right? Same place, but many years before. The name Bethlehem means house of bread. Okay? Now, there's a severe famine, not just in that area, but the entire, all of the Mediterranean area at this time. And so what has ended up here, so let me explain severe famine, because, we get it, but if we ran out of money, we still have friends we could go find to say, hey, can you help us out? Honestly, I don't want that to happen. And most of us do. There would be some solution to, but what we're talking about in this culture at this time isn't that people were month to month living. It's not even that they were week to week living. The majority of people were living day to day. So, when there is a famine, a severe famine, a lack of food, this is no food for weeks. This is all the consequences that come with no food, where people already have lost their way, continue to lose their way. And if we're going to go into applying what I've said so far, then what you have is the house of bread without bread. Yeah? So again, this is the setup. Where bread is supposed to be, where life is supposed to exist, where hope is supposed to be, there is none. And the last thing in this area of just kind of getting some of the context is the idea of Moab. Now, some of you may not have to imagine this, but most of us do. Imagine that there was someone who tried to kill you. And I don't mean it metaphorically, that they literally are trying to kill you. Like there's points in the Bible where it talks about my enemies or something. And I'll be honest, I don't think that way, Pastor Jason. I don't go, there's my enemy. I just don't. But imagine that you did, that there was literally somebody who their entire thing was for you to not exist. That's Moab. Historically, in the Bible, even before Judges, Moab tried to do everything it could to wipe out Israel, to wipe out the Hebrew people. And God he wasn't cool with it. As a result, it was so bad that as a result, in Deuteronomy 23:6, God had them write, as long as you live, you must never promote the welfare and prosperity of the Ammonites or the Moabites. So let's put this together. People who are the people of God, in a place where it's the house of bread, leave the house of bread because there is no bread and go to where they were once tried to be murdered. This is how severe it is. This is how crazy this kind of setup is. So, what ends up happening, they get there, and it kind of works for a little bit, but while in Moab, Naomi's husband dies. And so we've got, it doesn't matter what her husband's and kids' names were. I'm sure they mattered to them at the time. But for our story, Naomi is the woman that goes with her husband and lives in Moab. And while she's there, her husband dies, leaving her to be cared for by her two sons. Each of her sons get married to Moabite women. And then about 10 years after that, both sons die also. Starting to feel a little bit? This is the tension. This is what a story should do. It should introduce you to people, to what's going on, and then it should heighten the tension so you're like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. So what we have then, in a culture where women couldn't own land and essentially had no rights, Naomi and her two daughters-in-law were now widows. Okay? And in that time, widows had very few choices. if they had family they could go to, there might be something. But apart from that, older widows with no family and no other skills that might possibly be able to translate into help in some way, sometimes just starved. And they would die. This is one of the tensions of being a widow. That unless you had someone specifically on purpose trying to care for you. I'm not talking about every widow. I'm talking about the one probably a little older. Younger widows, how about them? Well, if they had no family, they're sort of stuck into two options. Well, maybe three. If they got lucky, maybe they get married and solve this. The fundamental question is, how do we survive? But apart from that, they're left with, honestly, either prostitution or slavery. There's a system in all these different countries that basically you could sell yourself. And if you can't eat, this becomes one of the options. From afar, we can look down and say, oh, no one should ever do that. But if it's between never eating again and starving to death and doing what you can do, I would hope there's less judgment. But these are some of the options. The final option is, again, but you would have to have a unique situation, is return home. What happened when you were married is that as the female was, they were part of a house, and then when they got married, they became a part of that other house. And so to that other family, they now belong to this family. And so when becoming a widow, they're still in this other family. So they have to, if they're going to go home, they literally have to go back and see if the family they originally came from will accept them back. Which sounds very foreign to us, which is good. But this is the reality. Because what if that family that you're trying to go back to also has no ability to feed themselves? They're not going to accept another mouth and responsibility. So this is the tension. You now have 3 widows. And this is where we get back to Naomi. And Naomi then decides that what she's going to do is return home. She's a little older, but that doesn't mean, she's not ancient, she's not decrepit, she's very capable, but she's a little older. But even then, she decides she's going to go back home. She's going to go back to Bethlehem. Why? Because she heard that the house of bread had bread again. And so in this chapter, you get these little flashes of hope. Little symbolic kind of things that, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't just a sad story. So she goes back home and she tells her daughters-in-law that they should do the same. Not go with her, but each of them, the Moabite women, should go back to their Moabite families. And at first, they both say, no, we're going to stay with you. We're going to go with their people. Naomi insists. And this is where you can get really deep, and we're not going there today, but because there's a bunch of really interesting, at least to nerds, stuff that goes on with family dynamics and land and all these different things. But the simple version is that she said, go home, and they go, no. And then she really insists because, look, I can't give you children. Look, if you go with me, she's essentially saying, if you go with me, there is almost 100% chance that you are committed to being a widow with me for the rest of your lives. That it will constantly be, how are we going to survive tomorrow? Okay? So, one of the daughters-in-law, her name was Orpah, says, okay, I'll go back home. And there's no lack, there's nothing wrong with Orpah's choice. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes people who read this kind of look at her bad. No. She made the right, safe decision. If she felt her family would take her back and could handle it, then that's how to survive. There's nothing wrong with it. But there's something different that goes on. with the other one, whose name's Ruth. So in chapter 1, verse 15, Naomi says this. Look, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. You should do the same. We're getting ready to read one of the best verses in the whole Bible. Ruth chapter 1, verse 16 to 17. Ruth's reply changes literally everything. But Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. This is Ruth. This is why I'm a huge fan. Ruth demonstrates something that is straight out of the heart of God. Ruth, a Moabitess, who has no reason to call Yahweh God or think in that way, she ends this thing when she says, may the Lord punish me. She actually references Jehovah. That's the word there. When she says, don't ask me to turn back. Where you go, I'll go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. She cuts a covenant. She makes an agreement that she doesn't need someone else to agree to. She just says, your pain will be my pain. Your challenge will be my challenge. Your hope will be my hope. We will do this together. I don't care what comes. I will be there. What Ruth showed in just a few words and with absolute conviction makes Naomi's vulnerability her own. Ruth says your fate and mine are forever connected, and I will make your survival as important as my own. So what do you call that? What do you call it? You can't insist that from anybody, can you? What do you do with that? What's it? English doesn't have a word for it. Fortunately, Hebrew does. And the word is hesed. If you're into Hebrew, there's a little kind of, to pronounce it correctly, you have to kind of clear your throat a little bit. It's hesed. You can try that at home. I don't want you spitting on people. Apparently, we're coming into cold and flu season, maybe. But hesed, I'm going to say it hesed from now on, but this Hebrew word is often translated as loving kindness, and it's often referencing God, his loving kindness. Another translation is steadfast love or faithful love, mercy or covenant loyalty. But none of them quite do the work, and I don't think I'm going to, you need all of them, actually. Even two words together doesn't quite do the work to explain what hesed is. You just see, when you see it, you know it. I like this, love with courage. Another one that I really, it's love that acts, love that does something, love that keeps promises, restores relationships, and mirrors the heart of God. Ruth, guys, gives up her homeland, gives up her family and a future for Naomi's sake. Saying, not only am I with you, but I'm committed to your best. And it is this loyalty, this hesed, that changes everything. Naomi's story becomes Ruth's story. And Ruth's story moves like this. It begins in famine and ends in fullness. It hits off in death and completes in life. It starts in emptiness and the loss of children and ends in abundance and a regain of family. This is the story of Ruth. And it's through a Moabite, an enemy, an outsider who became part of the lineage of Jesus. Why? because Ruth was deeply and truly life-alteringly kind at a core level. Where you go, I will go. Where you die, I will die. Your gods will be my gods. Your people will be my people. And that is what we call the gospel. Hope where there is no hope. Kindness because it's needed, not because it's deserved. See, guys, kindness is not owed. It is given. I'm just going to leave it. Kindness is not owed. It's given. To jump ahead, we get to give it. Not because anyone deserves it from us or demands it from us, but because it's been given to us. So the only thing that makes sense is that I figure out how to give it. I'm 35 years plus into figuring out this, doing this Christian thing. And I'll be honest, I'm still figuring out the kindness part. I didn't know about it for a long time. I didn't. So I'm still figuring it out. But the more I get, the more I understand that I get to give it. And it's my opportunity to demonstrate what God has done in me to others. So, the little title of this is What Could Be. This is our setup. I hope you feel some of the tension there. What they're experiencing at the end of chapter 1, at this point in chapter 1, is how are we going to survive? And Ruth doesn't answer how we're going to survive. She simply says we're going to do it together. If it's hard, we'll both go through hard. If it's great, we'll both go through great. We're kind of thinking it's going to be hard, but let's go. Let's do this. So chapter 1 then ends with Naomi returning to Bethlehem. Her name means, the word Naomi means pleasant. And when people see her, she comes back to Bethlehem, and people haven't seen her for a very long time. And they're like, oh, wow, this is Naomi. It's Naomi's back. And they're excited, and they see her. And her response is, don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. And Mara means bitterness. And she explains it. I'm no longer pleasant. I left full, and I've come home empty. And yet, there's still something. You're like, oh, Naomi doesn't see it. But Naomi, do you remember Ruth? What she said to you? There's something different about that. And you know how stories just kind of, there's certain words they use. I mean, you go through Judges and you're like, oh yeah, this is a nightmare. But something about the words in Ruth, and you're going, maybe this isn't a nightmare. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But there seems to be hope here. And there's hope in the story. Why? Because Moab's behind them. And there's food in the house of bread. And Ruth, the Moabitess who understands hesed, has come with her. Church, there are some things that are really, really hard. Things where things shouldn't go that way, right? Things that we call unfair. Things that are just beyond difficult. And those are hopefully maybe not constant, but man, they still happen. It's times where we can't see where God is at work. Like Pastor Jason showed the image of the winding road, where you know it's the road, but you're hoping it doesn't just lead off a cliff, or you just got to, everything's kind of tense because you're trying to stay on the road, but you got to believe in something different, that there's an end to it. But what we see in Ruth and through the rest of the book that we'll get to over the next 3 weeks is that the story isn't done. I can't tell you guys that everything will always make you feel great. You would know I was wrong. And if you don't, I'm sorry. You've lost some chance to mature. But I can tell you, through all my years of not knowing everything, but knowing some, being able to try and keep trying and even get the chance to do ministry, is that God will not fail. That the God, my God, is utterly and completely faithful. That the reason we're able to understand even the concept of this hesed, of loyalty beyond loyalty, loyalty that you can't demand, loyalty that kindness is wrapped up in, or vice versa. I would say kindness that somehow overflows into loyalty. An absolute movement through that this is what is going to happen. That began with God. And it's given to us. Psalm 63:3 says the English version will be, your loving kindness is greater than life. Or your faithfulness is greater than life. But the word is hesed. So your hesed is greater than life. But I can tell you is that this gospel that's been given to us, this hope that's been given to us, this loyalty from God, this utter kindness, this mercy, this grace is something that you and I have to participate in. It's not done to you. Yeah? It's not pixie dust sprinkled over you, and then, woohoo, I can fly to heaven. It is a change in demeanor. It's a change in understanding. It's a move from Moab, the place of enemies, back to a place of life. It's not done to us, church. It is given to us. Our question then is, what will you do with the chance that you and I have been offered? You can't know what the future holds any more than Naomi could have known that an utterly courageous, kind, and loyal daughter-in-law would lead her to the redemption of her entire family. Can you stand with me as we close? I have 3 quick challenges that I want to give in the form of choice. The first one is to choose hope in spite of what you're afraid of. Hope requires effort. See, hope isn't hope if you don't work toward it. I know we have this idea that hope is just, well, I wish that would happen. Well, the reason that's not hope is because of the word I used to describe it. That's called a wish. Right? I know we use that way, but we've diminished hope. Or, let me put it a different way. The Bible's view and the way, even though it's translated hope, isn't a wish. The Greek of that hope word means expectant confidence. And for some of you, that's what you think faith is. And it's not. Faith is much closer to trust. Hope, though, looks to something that isn't there yet. And hope is the process. Hope is the thing that between, this is what's needed, and it just happened. Hope is that space. Hope is knowing this is gonna happen. All the while living through. And if it were even, then that'd be a thing. But often it's little high, little low, little high, little low. Sometimes extremes of both. And we can forget. But it's still hope, is that expectant confidence that this is where we're going. So choose hope in spite of what we're afraid of. No work is a wish, and it's not hope. We don't need our wish for things to be better. We need an expectant confidence that knows that God will see to it. Second is choose where you're going over where you've been. We all have a metaphorical Moab, a place that even though you might have thought it was friendly, but apart from God is death. Where you were, for some of us, maybe even where you are now, is trying to kill you. Sin is essentially that. We've somehow taken the word of sin and made it this kind of weird thing about smoking and drinking and sin's about death, guys. Sin's about the things that break you and break you down that God never designed you for. Add to that and make it even more significant is how it affects community. Sin are things that community is not sustainable around. And our separation from those things is essentially, hey, would you like to stop hurting yourself? And if we're honest, we go, I don't know how. This is the only life I know how to live. And God's hope is, oh, let me show you. And God's agents of hope are us. You and I. Us as a community. Not just individuals, but individuals working together. Choosing where we're going over where we've been. And finally, choose the way of Jesus. What made Ruth significant wasn't her holiness, by whatever standards we pull them. But she's significant because God accepted her, and God accepted her. God embraced a Moabitess into the community because she cared for what God cares for. Yes? She absolutely committed her life to one of his children. Not to get a reward, but because someone needed someone to be kind. Someone to be kind in the hesed way. So what does God really care about? Scripture is really clear. Those who are lost and need to be found, and those who need hope. Church, will you pray with me today? Holy God, I thank you for your word. I thank you for the opportunity to get into this word and see what you're doing. That we see gospel, God. We see good news before it ever shows up in the New Testament. We see your plan early on. Your desire that your people be like you. We see your mercy. We see your compassion demonstrated to people in the Bible, and we can see it demonstrated in us. Father, show us. Holy Spirit of God, show us how in our challenges we can still come alongside, how we can still care, how we can, even today, be like you. You who cared for us because we simply needed someone to care. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God bless you, church. We'll see you next week. If you need prayer, if our prayer people would come forward, please do. We love you, and stay warm today.